Hey Rugged, what's your best dirty joke? Two deer walk out of a gay bar. One says to the other, I can't believe I blew $50 in there. What does the Mafia and a PSSY have in common? One slip of the tongue and you're in deep tea. Why didn't Barbie ever get pregnant? A man with no arms and no legs sits at the beach pondering his lonely life. Three beautiful women walk by and the first woman, taking pity on the man, walks up and asks, have you ever been hugged before? No, says the man. So she hugs him and walks on. The second woman, also taking pity on the man, walks up and asks, have you ever been kissed before? No, the man replies sorrowfully. So she kisses him and walks on. The third woman also walks up to the man and asks him, have you ever been ducked before? No, says the man, now with a tear in his eye. What do you call the sweat between two rednecks having sex? What's the difference between a hooker and a drug dealer? What did the leper say to the prostitute? Keep the tip. Two men broke into a drugstore and stole all the Viagra. A nurse in a care home walked past one of the bedrooms to see an elderly lady sucking on her husband's penis. She came in and said, Mrs. Phillips, you can't do that. Why not? She asked. I enjoy doing it. Yes, she replied. But it was meant to be buried with the rest of him. What do you get when you mix human DNA and goat DNA? Kicked out of the petting zoo. What did Cinderella do when she reached the ball? An older man is in the hospital and has the oxygen mask on. A new nurse comes in to give him a sponge bath and he asks her in a muffled voice, are my testicles black? She looks at him embarrassed and tells him, sorry sir, I'm just here to clean your upper body. You'd need the doctor here for that. The man stayed silent until finally after some time he asks her again, are my testicles black? Embarrassed but figuring that the old man seems stressed and she doesn't want his pressure to rise, she removes the blanket and puts his testicles in her hand to examine them. No sir, your testicles seem fine. The old man removes his mask and speaks again, this time clearly. Thank you nurse, that's reassuring. Now listen carefully. Are my test results back? Edit. Sorry for grammar errors. Edit 2. Thank you all so much for the upvotes and the award. Why do Scotsmen wear kilts? Because a sheep can hear a zipper from 20 meters away. I have a few dirty limericks I wrote. I once knew a woman from Kent who desired a well-to-do gent. She wanted a wedding, an orthodox wedding, but I'm afraid he just came and then went. I once knew a man from New York whose pecker was split like a fork. Though men were disgusted, the ladies just loved it. He could pleasure both starboard and port. There was once a man from Kent whose tool was so long that it bent. To save him the trouble, he folded it in double, and instead of coming he went, comma. On the chest of a barmaid in sale were tattooed the prices of ale. For the sake of the blind. Upon her behind was the same information in braille. What's the difference between an enzyme and a hormone? You can't hear an enzyme. What's the difference between a chickpea and a garbanzo bean? I've never paid $10 to have a garbanzo bean on my face. What is the difference between a blimp and 365 blowjobs? One is a good year. The other is a ducking fantastic year. I was with my uncle at a pub and he tells me, lad, see that there table? I built that table with me own 2 hands, spent days cutting and sanding the wood. But does anybody call me Billy the table maker? No. Then he point out the door to the dock and says, see that there dock? I put long days and late night went into that dock. But does anybody call me Billy the dock builder? No. He grabs his pint and take a swig and says, but you duck one goat. Why is reverse cowgirl illegal in Alabama? Exclamation point. This one's long but here it is. A man gets onto a city bus and sees an attractive nun wanting to have sex with her. He goes up and asks, will you have sex with me? Of course not. The nun said unnervingly and got off the bus. Before the depressed man left the bus, The bus driver stops him and says, "I know how you can screw her. On Sundays, she prays at the local cemetery. While she is praying, dress as God and she'll have sex with you. Put on a mask, robes, and a lot of glitter." That Sunday, the man takes the advice, gets into the costume and hides behind a gravestone. Shortly, the nun appears and prays. The man pops out from the gravestone and declares, "I am God, and I command you to have sex with me." The nun replies, "Sure, but only if we have an LSX. So I can remain a virgin." So they have an LSX. After sex, the man rips off his mask and laughs. "I'm not God. I'm that man from the bus. Ha." Immediately the nun rips off her mask and says, "Ha. I'm the bus driver." Did you know about the hole in the walls of houses of Nudist colony? What's 6 inches long, hard as a rock, and full of semen? The sock under my bed. My rat after I'm done. What's green and smells like pork? Kermit's finger. Have a secondary to this. Why can't Miss Piggy count to 70? Time for my favorite bar joke. 3 guys are walking their dogs and get to chatting while they do their business. As things wrap up, the first man says, "Hey, watch this." He drops 3 treats on the ground, and his dog walks up, studies them, then barks woof, woof, woof. "See that? I'm a mathematician. I taught my dog how to count." "That's nothing," says the second man. He drops a small pile of treats. His dog walks up and begins nosing and pawing around, and then steps back, having made a perfectly stacked pyramid. "I'm an engineer. I taught my dog construction." "Guys, that's nothing. I'm a bartender. Watch this." The third man drops 2 milk bones on the ground and steps back. His dog crushes both treats, snorts them, ducks the other 2 dogs, and then calls out of work sick the next day. They say that during sex you burn off as many calories as running 8 miles. Who the hell runs 8 miles in 30 seconds? How do you spot a blind man on a nude beach? It's not hard. Why did the sperm cross the road? A. 2 sperm are swimming side by side. One says to the other, "How far to the fallopian tubes?" "I don't know. But we just passed the esophagus." What did the banana say to the vibrator? "Why the duck are you shaking? She's gonna eat me." I heard there was once a man born with 5 DCKS. 3 pregnant women were at the OB-GYN to find out the sex of their babies. They got to talking in the waiting room and the brunette says, "I know mine is a boy because I was on bottom when I got pregnant." The redhead thinks for a second and says, "Well then mine must be a girl because I am always on top." The blonde gets excited and says, "I can't wait to see my puppies." So there's this girl, right? We'll call her Ashley. Ashley's been flat-chested her whole life, and as she approaches her mid-20s she wants to get a boob job. So she goes to see this doctor by the name of Dr. Bob. And Dr. Bob tells her if she wants bigger boobs all she has to do is wake up every morning, rub her chest, and at the same time say, "Scooby-Dooby-Doo. I want bigger boobs." So she starts doing this for a couple weeks and she realizes it's starting to work. But one morning while she's taking the bus she realizes she forgot about her new morning routine. So she looks around, makes sure the coast is clear, and rubs her chest while saying, "Scooby-Dooby-Doo. I want bigger boobs." All of a sudden the guy behind her goes, "Hey, have you been seeing Dr. Bob too?" And she goes, "Yeah." "How do you know?" And the man responds, "Hickory dickory dock." What do you call a hooker with her hand up her skirt? Exclamation point. Self-employed. I got something similar. A threesome is with 3 people. A twosome with 2. So now I understand why they call me handsome. Why does Santa have such a big sack? Exclamation point. Because he only comes once a year. What did one tampon say to the other? Nothing. They're both stuck up CNTS. My buddy's girlfriend got a tattoo of a seashell on her inner thigh. He said every time he puts his ear up to it he can smell the ocean. An old married couple are in church one Sunday when the woman turns to her husband and says, "I've just let out a really long, silent fart. What should I do?" The husband turned to her and says, "Replace the battery in your hearing aid." Edit. Oh. I'm humbled to have received this much attention and number of awards for one of my favorite silly, dirty potty humor jokes. Thank you. This just made my day. Right off the bat. A little boy goes fishing with his grandpa one day. They pack up the boat and set off down the river. As afternoon rolls around, Grandpa reaches in the cooler and cracks open a beer. "Oh. Grandpa. Can I try one? Asterisk. Can your DCK touch your asshole?" No. Asterisk. Welp. Then you're not old enough. Sorry. Kid. They continue about their day and a little while later, Gramps decides to try one of his new cigars. "Oh. Grandpa. Can I try one? Asterisk. Can your DCK touch your asshole?" No. Asterisk. Welp. Then you're not old enough. Sorry. Kid. The little boy sulks for a bit before reaching into his bag for some homemade cookies he had nearly forgotten about. "Oh. What you got there? Can I try one? Little guy. Can your DCK touch your asshole?" Asterisk. Grandpa perks up and proudly responds, "Yup." "Good, then go duck yourself. Grandma made them for me." Johnny was trapped on a lonely island with nothing but a pit bull and a pig. After a few days the pig started to look pretty good and Johnny tries to have sex with it. But every time he took his pants down the pit bull bit him in the ass. He tries it again and again, but the pit bull bit him every time. One day a woman was lying on the beach and Johnny saved her from drowning. The woman was so thankful and asked, "Is there anything I could do to thank you?" Full stop. Johnny said, "Yeah. Could you take a walk with the dog?" In a lesbian relationship, which one cooks? Neither. They eat out. A man was sitting next to a woman on a plane. She began bragging about her sex life, saying, "I've had sex with hundreds of men." The man, clearly amused, asked, "Is it true that black men are the biggest?" She said, "No. Mexican guys are." He asked, "Who are the most passionate lovers?" She replied, "Jews are." He finally asked, "Who lasts the longest?" She replied, "Southerners do." Then she asked the man, "Oh yeah. What's your name again?" The man replied, "Joe's registered sign. Joe's registered sign Goldstein. But my friends call me Bubba." A highway patrolman pulled over two suspects traveling in a car, but saw it was just two Catholic priests. The officer says, "I'm looking for a couple of child molesters." The priests looked at each other, then back to the officer and said, "We'll do it." A man is on a vacation overseas with his friends. As he's talking with them in the crowded hotel bar, he accidentally elbows a woman in the chest. He's immediately apologetic. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. If your heart is as soft as your breast, I know you'll find it in yourself to forgive me." To which the woman replies, "If your cock is as hard as your elbow, I'm in room 312. There was a young man from Istanbul who discovered red spots on his tool. Said his doctor, "A cynic. Get out of my clinic and wipe off the lipstick, you fool." A wife says to her husband, "I'm leaving you and going to the city where I can do blowjobs for $100 each. At least then I'll have some money." So the husband runs upstairs and brings down a suitcase full of his things. Wife asks, "Wait, where do you think you're going?" Husband replies, "I'm coming with you. I'm curious to see how you'll live on $300 a year." This lady finds out her husband is cheating on her, So she waits till he falls asleep and then she cuts his DCK off and runs out to the car with his DCK still in her hand and just drives off. About a mile down the road, she realizes she still has DCK, so she rolls down the window and throws it out. Coming down the road on the opposite side are two guys that have been out drinking and pass her car just as she throws out the DCK and it bounces off their car window. They sit in silence for a moment and then the man in the passenger seat looks at the driver and says, "Damn. Did you see the DCK on that fly?" Edit. Holy crap. Thanks for the 250 upvotes everyone. A man walks into a bar with a cat and an ostrich. He walks up to the bar and orders a round of drinks. The cat perks up and says, "I'm not paying." The man reassures the cat, "Don't worry. It's on me." They sit down at a table and finish their drinks. The man goes back up to the bar and orders a second round. The cat again shouts out, "I'm not paying." Full stop. The man reassures the cat and pays. When the man comes up for the third time, the barman's curiosity gets the better of him and he asks the man why he has a cat and an ostrich with him. The man replies that he was on an expedition in Egypt and found a magical lamp. When he rubbed it, a genie came out and granted him a wish. The barman is confused. "What on earth did you wish for to get a talking cat and an ostrich?" he asks. The man replies, "I wished for a bird with long legs and a tight PSSY. Why don't chickens wear underwear? Because their pecker is on their face." A man walks in and sits down at a bar. He hears the conversation between a granddaughter, mother, and grandmother taking place across the bar from him. They are discussing if any in their group have ever been paid for sex. The granddaughter says, "I got $40 for a blowjob once." $40. "I only received $20 for my blowjob," the mother replies. The grandmother looks at both of them incredulously and says, $20? When I was younger it was just nice to have something warm in your tummy. Edit. Jack and Jill have grown up. They've graduated from uni, gotten married, and got a job at the same firm. One day, while going through the books and after much deliberation, their boss decides he must lay off one employee. Jack and Jill are the most recent hires, so it must be one of them. The problem is he hired them at the same time, and he doesn't want to be biased or sexist. So he decides the first one of them to use the drinking fountain will get the axe. While he's considering what to say, Jill walks up with some aspirin to take a drink. Her boss very sympathetically says, "Jill, I've either got to lay you or jack off." Jill responds with a sigh, "Well, you'll have to jack off. I've got a headache." What do you call a hooker with a runny nose? Full. My best friend's sister won't come to his wedding. "I've tried everything," he said. "She just won't come." "Whoa," I said. I just got the strongest deja vu. There is a signalman up in the Highlands. He really wants to get a promotion, so he sends a letter to British Rail and they send up an assessor. He asks him what he would do if two trains were barreling down the track at each other. The signalman says he would out one train on a passing loop. "But what if the points are jammed?" "I would throw the emergency switch." "But what if the switch is on fire?" "I would run out and use the lever on the line to switch the train into the passing loop." "But what if it was struck by lightning?" "Then I'd get my Uncle Alistair." "Why?" "My wife told me I want 10 inches and I want it to hurt, so I ducked her twice and punched her in the head." Redneck virgin? Little Johnny from West Virginia comes running up the road yelling, "Pa! Pa!" When his dad sees him, he says, "Great news, Pa. Me and Sally Mae are engaged." Father says, "That's wonderful news. She's also a virgin, Pa." At which Johnny's father says, "Now hold on a second, Johnny. If she's not good enough for her own family, she's not good enough for you." What's the difference between a prostitute and a 7-year-old? You don't know? A naked man ran past two old ladies on the street. One of them immediately had a stroke, and the other one missed. A farmer comes home late one night. He comes in the house and he has a pig with him. His wife is upset and comes into the room ready to ask why he's coming back so late. The farmer says, "This is the pig I've been ducking." The wife in shock asks, "You've been ducking a pig?" To which the farmer replies, "I wasn't talking to you. I've heard a slightly different version." A farmer's wife is in bed one night when her husband comes in with a chicken under his arm and says, "This is the pig I've been ducking when I'm not with you." She replies, "That's a chicken. You idiot. I was talking to the chicken, not you." Two hookers were standing on the side of the street. Hooker 1 asked Hooker 2, "Ever been picked up by the fuzz?" Hooker 2 responded, "No, but I've been swung by the tits." Guy comes home with a bouquet of flowers for his wife. "I suppose I'll have to spread my legs now," she says. "Why?" He says, "Don't you have a vase?" What's a good part about eating pie, but not eating PSSY? The crust. Guy is eating out a woman and he finds half a carrot and a piece of lettuce. He looks up at her and says, "What the hell? Woman, are you sick?" The woman says, "No. But the guy eating me out an hour ago was." What kind of bees make milk? Two boys were skipping stones by a pond. One says he has to pee and runs off and leaves. He doesn't come back for the longest time. So the other goes to find him. The second boy finds the first hiding in the bushes. "What are you doing?" The second says, "Shut the hell up. There's a naked chick in the pond over there." The first replies. They sit and watch for a while. And then the second boy runs off. The first runs him down and asks, "Why did you run off like that?" The second boy replies, "My mom said if I ever saw a naked woman, I'd turn to stone. And I felt something getting hard." What's the difference between 3DCKS and a joke? My last girlfriend couldn't take a joke. A farmer is going to the movies but they won't let him bring in his pet chicken. He pops outside, hides the chicken in his pants and goes on in. He sits beside two little old ladies. And after the lights go down he opens the front of his pants to let his pet chicken enjoy the show too. One little old lady turns to the other and says, "Myrtle, the man next to us just let this thing out of his pants." The other lady says, "You see that sometimes in the big city. Just ignore what he's up to and watch the movie." "But Myrtle, this thing's eating my popcorn." During World War I, a French fighter pilot takes his date on a picnic down on the banks of the Seine River. After some food and conversation, things started getting frisky. Date: Pierre, "Kiss me." Pierre throws red wine in her face. Date: "Why did you do that?" Pierre: "I am Pierre the fighter pilot. When I have red meat, I have red wine." Date shrugs it off. And things continue. After a little bit, she encourages him to kiss her lower. Pierre throws white wine on her chest. Date: Pierre: "What the hell do you think you are doing?" Pierre: "I am Pierre the fighter pilot. When I have white meat, I have white wine." Date again shrugs it off. And things continue to get even more heated. Date again encourages him to go lower. Pierre then splashes brandy on her crotch and lights it on fire. Date goes running into the river and stumbles out sputtering. Date: "Pierre, what the duck do you think you are doing?" Pierre: "I am Pierre the fighter pilot. When I go down in flames." Pierre is a psychopath. Well, it's not a joke, but I messaged a guy who had a cat on his Bumble profile and I messaged, "I'll let you play with my PSSY if you let me play with yours." Yay. Q. How did Pinocchio find out he was made out of wood? A. He caught fire the first time he masturbated. What did the elephant say to the naked man? Exclamation point. How do you breathe through that little thing? Have you ever heard of a reverse exorcism? It's the demon trying to get the priest out of the boy. If you have SX for money you are a WH-RE. But if you have SX for free, will that be called a non-profit WH-RE organization? What do priests and Christmas trees have in common? Both their balls are for decoration. A white guy is standing at a urinal taking a PSS. Some black guy comes up next to him. The white guy can't help it, but he takes a glance. He's surprised to see that the black guy's shriveled DCK has the letters WY tattooed on it. The white guy also has a tattoo on his DCK, which also looks like WY. Hey man, is your girlfriend's name Wendy too? What mon? Well, my girlfriend's name is Wendy and I have her name tattooed on my DCK. The black guy catches on and laughs. No mon. Me tat say welcome to Jamaica. Have a nice day.